Okay, let's dive right into this explainer, where we're going to trace the dramatic, completely chronological life cycle of a blood clot. We are going on a really fascinating journey today. We'll be moving from a microscopic genesis, something so tiny you can't even see it without powerful magnification, all the way to its profound macroscopic effects on the human body. And, to put the sheer scale of this into perspective, your heart pumps roughly 2,000 gallons of blood through 60,000 miles of blood vessels every single day. That is enough mileage to wrap around the Earth more than twice. So we'll be looking at the formation, the ultimate fate, and the physiological effects of a process that is happening, or, well, waiting to happen, within that massive network inside every single one of us right now.
To start things off, we really have to ask ourselves about this incredible high-stakes paradox that's taking place constantly inside our veins. Think about it. What invisible biological process saves our lives from the tiniest of scrapes, yet is simultaneously the main culprit behind our absolute most deadly medical emergencies? It's kind of crazy. It's a system perfectly designed for survival that just occasionally goes completely off the rails. And to understand how we survive day to day, we really have to understand this precise biological tightrope walk. Now, what's really interesting here is how thrombosis is specifically defined. It's not just your standard run-of-the-mill blood clot, it is the pathological formation of a clot within an intact, uninjured blood vessel. So this isn't your body's normal healing process jumping into action to seal up a paper cut. No, this is an errant event. If you imagine your vascular system as this massive, high-speed highway network, thrombosis is essentially a catastrophic traffic jam that forms out of literally nowhere on a perfectly paved stretch of road, and it brings everything to a dangerous, grinding halt. And this brilliantly illustrates the dichotomy we're dealing with here. On one hand, we have hemostasis, right? The hero of our story. Hemostasis is your rapid response repair crew that stops you from bleeding out when you get a physical injury. We absolutely love hemostasis. But then, we have thrombosis, the rogue agent. It uses the exact same tools, the exact same cellular building blocks, but it deploys them at the completely wrong time and in the wrong place, dangerously blocking blood flow within a totally healthy vessel. So for the rest of this explainer, we're going to shift our focus entirely away from life-saving hemostasis and zero in on this pathological rogue agent. All right, let's move into section 1, genesis and formation. So the crucial takeaway here is that this formation relies on what medical science calls the classic triad of triggers. Think of this as a literal recipe for disaster. To get thrombosis, you typically need one or more of these three specific ingredients to be present. First, endothelial injury. Basically, the smooth inner lining of your blood vessel gets damaged. It's like a severe pothole forming on our highway. Second is abnormal blood flow. This could be stasis, where the blood is sluggish and just moving way too slowly, or turbulence, where it's swirling around chaotically. And third, hypercoagulability. This is when the blood itself is chemically altered to be too prone to clotting. It's essentially like having all the cars on our highway suddenly coated in superglue. When these conditions align, platelets can activate and begin aggregating in mere milliseconds, clumping together until that rogue thrombus is officially born.
Which brings us to section 2, the fate of the clot.
Okay, so once this rogue thrombus has successfully formed, the biological clock starts ticking. Depending on your body's defensive response, the clot is going to face one of 4 totally divergent paths. First, there's propagation. This is bad news. It's where the clot stubbornly wins the battle, gathering more platelets and red blood cells, growing larger and larger until it completely blocks the vessel. Then we have dissolution. This is the absolute ideal scenario where your body's natural clot-busting enzymes win the fight, safely breaking down the blockage and clearing the highway. Another fate is organization. This is where the body kind of just gives up on clearing the jam and instead paves right over it, incorporating the clot directly into the vessel wall just to restore at least some blood flow. But it is that second point right there, embolization, that we really need to worry about.
This is our biological cliffhanger. Because if the clot takes the fate of embolization, the stakes instantly dramatically escalate. Embolization means the mass, or even just a piece of it, breaks free from where it formed. So it is no longer just a local traffic jam. It is now a literal unguided missile zooming through your vascular highway system. And it is going to keep traveling, fast, until the blood vessels get too narrow for it to pass.
Let's look at the final stage in section 3, effects on the body.
When that traveling rogue clot finally gets wedged in a narrow vessel, the collateral damage is incredibly swift and severe. The first terrifying outcome is ischemia. Simply put, this is tissue starvation. Because the blood supply is cut off by the blockage, the tissues downstream are suddenly deprived of life-giving oxygen and nutrients. And if that obstruction isn't cleared in time, ischemia progresses into the second phase, infarction. Infarction means permanent tissue death.
This right here, this very transition from starvation to permanent death contains the fundamental mechanics behind our most feared medical events. If this obstruction lodges in the brain and causes infarction, that is a stroke. If it lodges in the coronary arteries of the heart, that is a myocardial infarction, a heart attack. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you pondering this incredibly delicate balance happening inside your own cardiovascular system. The exact same mechanism that saves us from bleeding out from a simple everyday paper cut possesses the terrifying power to stop a human heart in its tracks. It really forces you to wonder, doesn't it? Just how perfectly tuned, how flawlessly regulated must our biology be to manage this high-stakes paradox, allowing us to survive and thrive every single day?